Okay, so today we're going to look at section 1.5, applications and modeling with quadratic equations. So to solve an applied problem, first we read the problem carefully, assign a variable to represent the unknown value, write an equation using the variable, and solve the equation and state the answer. So the first example we have here is the sum of the squares of two consecutive even integers is 52. Find the integer. So if we let one integer, the first integer, be x, the second would be x plus 2 since they're both even. So now it says the sum of the squares. So we have x squared plus x plus 2 squared is equal to 52. So we go ahead and FOIL out this, gives us x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 52. Combine the like terms, I have 2x squared plus 4x, and let's go ahead and subtract the 52. We get minus 48 equals 0. Now, to make this easier to deal with, we can divide both sides by 2 and simply get x squared plus 2x minus 24 equals 0. Now, at this point, we have a simple quadratic equation. We could use any of the methods we learned previously, including using the quadratic formula. Me personally, I see that this factors to x plus 6 times x minus 4. So x is equal to negative 6, or x is equal to positive 4, which means x is negative 6, and negative 6 plus 2, negative 4, and x is 4, and 4 plus 2, 6. So we have two different pairs of numbers. And if you look back to our original equation, we have negative 6 squared, which is 36, negative 4 plus 2, or correction, negative 6 squared plus negative 4 squared. 36 plus 16 is 52. Likewise, we have 4 squared plus 6 squared, which is 16 plus 36, which is also 52. So we know that our answers work. Okay, now, Kara is thinking of two positive numbers. One of them is 14 more than twice the other. And let the product of the two numbers, and the product of the two numbers is 88. What are the numbers? So we're going to let the first one be x. And one of them is 14 more than twice the other, which would be 2x plus 14. Those are my two numbers. And when I multiply them, I get 88. So that's what we have here. So I have 4x squared plus 14x. Go ahead and subtract the 88 equals 0. Now I can't really divide out to make it easy, so we'll go to the quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b, so that's negative 14 plus or minus the square root of 14 squared minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which is negative 88, all over 2 times a, which is 4. So we have negative 14 plus or minus the square root of 14 squared, which is 196. Now I have a negative times a positive times a negative. That's going to end up being plus 4 times 4 times 88, which is 1408, and all that's over 8. So this gives me negative 14 plus or minus the square root 1604 all over 8. If that's a nice even root. 1604. And we want the square root of it, and we get, oh, it is not. So let's look at 1604. Okay, digits add up to 11, so 3 is not divisible. It's not divisible by 3 or 9. I don't have a 0 or 5, so it's not divisible by 5. So we're looking at a 7, or not a 7, a 2. So I have 2 times 802, which is 2 times 401. And it doesn't look like anything else is going into that. So we're looking at negative 14 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 401 over 8. Now, can reduce this a little bit. Negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 401 over 4. Not a pretty number. Perhaps we made an error. One of them is 14 more than twice the other. Okay, so twice the other is 2x plus 14 and x. And the product, when you multiply them, you get 88. Here's the problem right here. That should be 2x squared. And that is why when we have the time, we take the time to look and see if our answers make sense. So this makes this a whole lot different. Now again, I can go ahead and divide by 2 and get x squared plus 7/8 minus 44 equals 0. And now I can see this as x plus 11 x minus 4 equals 0, which means that x equals negative 11 or x equals 4. Now, two positive numbers. So x cannot be negative 11. So 4 is one of them. The other one is 2 times 4 plus 14, which is 8 plus 14, which is 22. So my numbers are 4 and 22, which when you multiply them together, you get 88. Have to be careful with these. It's easy to get lost. Mike finds a piece of property in the shape of a right triangle. He finds that the longer leg is 10 feet shorter than twice the length of the shorter leg. Okay, so if we call this the shorter leg is x, then the longer leg is 10 feet shorter than twice the length of the shorter, which would be 2x minus 10. The hypotenuse is 20 feet longer than the length of the longer leg. So this is 2x minus 10 plus 20, which would be 2x plus 10. Okay? So now remember Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where a and b are the lengths of the two legs and c is the length of the hypotenuse. So we have 2x minus 10 squared plus x squared equals 2x plus 10 squared. So this becomes 4x squared minus 40x plus 100 plus x squared equals 4x squared plus 40x plus 100. So combining some like terms over here, I get 3x squared minus 40x plus 100 equals 4x squared plus 40x plus 100. I can subtract 100 from both sides, which gives me 3x squared minus 40x equals 4x squared plus 40x. Okay. Then I can subtract 3x from both sides. That gives me x squared over here. And add 40x. I have plus 80x equals 0. I can factor this as x times x plus 80 equals 0, which means that x equals 0 or x plus 80 equals 0, and we have an issue. So let us see. Where did we mess up this time? Property. Finds the longer leg is 10 feet shorter than twice the length of the shorter leg. So this is the short leg. This is 2 times x minus 10. The hypotenuse is 10 feet longer than the longer leg. So that's right. Did we mess up here? So let's break this down again and see. Maybe doing it in my head is not necessarily the best idea. Keep that in mind. So let's break this down as 2x minus 10 times 2x minus 10 plus x squared. And let's just stay over here for now. FOILing, we get first times first, which is 4x squared, inner times inner, minus 20x, last times last, plus 100 plus x squared. There's where it is right there. Found it. 4x squared, I had this as minus x squared, plus 20x plus 100. So go ahead and bring this back down. So we add and we get 5x squared minus 20x plus 100 equals 4x squared plus 20x plus 100s. The hundreds cancel each other out. So if I subtract 4x, I get x, or 4x squared, I get x squared. I subtract 20x, I get minus, that should be 40. 20 plus 20 is 40, which makes this minus 80x equals 0. So now I have x times x minus 80 equals 0. So x equals 0 or x equals 80. Now, we're talking about a measurement, so I can't have a triangle with a side 0. So 80 is the solution. Now, the main issue with this is once you figure out what you need to do, don't do like I did. Take your time. Go ahead and FOIL it. It's easy to make a mistake, and even after I FOIL it, I still made a mistake. So be careful when you're doing these. Because yes, partial credit will go for getting the setup right, but you still have to do the math right. You still have to understand when you have an answer that's not applicable. And that's what happened initially, was they end up with a negative distance, which we could not have. So that's it for this section. I shall see you next time.